What if the hero starts losing what makes him human, while the monster learns what it means to care? In the Chimera Ant arc, Hunter x Hunter turns the typical shonen formula upside down. The bright-eyed boy with boundless energy and a pure heart, GON begins as a symbol of innocence, driven by hope, loyalty, and friendship. The monarch bred for power and conquest, Meruem starts as a merciless king born to dominate, destroy, and rule. But by the end, their paths twist in ways no one saw coming. One is consumed by rage, the other finds peace in connection. In this video, we'll break down why the Chimera Ant arc isn't just one of the most unforgettable arcs in anime, but a philosophical mirror, showing how power, pain, and purpose can transform two characters in opposite directions. At first glance, the Chimera Ant arc feels like a strange detour. The tone is darker, the pacing slows, the structure abandons typical shonen rhythm. No tournament, no common villain, no guaranteed victories. Hunter x Hunter has always played with expectations, but this arc shatters them. What starts with a bizarre insect hybrid quickly spirals into an existential threat that feels more like horror than adventure. The power scaling explodes, and the central conflict is not good versus evil, it's survival versus purpose, instinct versus morality. Unlike previous arcs where power is something to gain, here it's something that corrupts. The stronger the characters become, the more they suffer for it. There's no hype-up training montage or triumphant victory music. Instead, we get internal collapse, moral compromise, and emotional ruin. And that's the brilliance. This arc isn't here to hype you up. It's here to make you question who's the real monster, what makes someone human, and when does the hero cross a line he can't return from. By breaking its own formula, Hunter x Hunter elevates itself, turning a classic shonen into a philosophical character study where the fights are brutal, but the psychological warfare hits even harder. Meruem is born a monster, not metaphorically, literally, a perfect being, a tyrant forged to rule, with strength so absolute it renders resistance meaningless. In his first moments of life, he kills one of his own creators without hesitation. Not out of anger, just indifference. His instinct is dominance, his purpose, conquest. But what makes Meruem fascinating isn't his power, it's his evolution. He begins as the embodiment of supremacy. No empathy, no curiosity, no weakness, just raw calculation and cold entitlement. And yet, his world begins to fracture the moment he meets Komugi, a blind, fragile girl who defeats him over and over in a simple board game. For the first time, Meruem encounters something he can't control, not with force, not with fear. Komugi isn't afraid of him. She's not impressed by him. She just plays, sincerely, awkwardly, with no agenda, and that confuses him. The more they play, the more something inside Meruem shifts. He begins to question, to think, to feel. Why does this weak human matter to him? Why does her opinion hurt more than any blade? Why does he hesitate? What we witness is transformation. Meruem, the apex predator, starts to shed his monstrous nature. He becomes curious about justice, about mercy, about the lives of those beneath him. He wrestles with guilt. He recognizes beauty in imperfection. In a genre where power often equals dehumanization, Meruem's strength leads him toward humanity. And that's the arc's genius. It doesn't redeem Meruem through loss, it redeems him through understanding. The king, bred to be a tyrant, chooses to become a man. While Meruem rises toward humanity, GON descends into something darker. GON starts the series as a bright force, idealistic, kind, and full of wonder. He sees the world through the eyes of a child, believing in fairness, in friendship, in the idea that good people win if they try hard enough. But the Chimera Ant arc destroys that illusion piece by piece. What breaks GON isn't just Kite's death, it's the meaningless of it. Kite was strong, good and kind, but he still died, brutally at the hands of Pitou. GON cannot accept that. He refuses to believe in a world where evil can win without consequence. So he makes a choice to reject kindness, to reject reason, to reject himself. The shift is slow at first, subtle expressions, shorter responses, the way he speaks to Killua. But it builds. Every moment GON gets closer to Pitou, he grows colder, his heart decays. And then he finds Pitou. He bursts into the room where Pitou is healing Komugi, expecting a fight. But what he sees instead is something disarming. A monster kneeling over a fragile, wounded girl. Pitou, the very being who killed Kite without hesitation, is using every ounce of Nen to save a human life. GON doesn't understand it. He doesn't want to understand it. And when Pitou pleads for more time, not to escape, but to heal Komugi, GON's confusion curdles into fury. Killua urges him to wait, to think, but GON is beyond listening. For him, the sight of compassion from Pitou is more unbearable than cruelty, because it breaks the narrative he's clung to, that monsters are monsters and justice is simple. That Kite died because evil won. He agrees to wait, barely, but something in him breaks in that room. When he finally confronts Pitou again, it's not a battle, it's an execution. GON sacrifices everything, his future, his body, his potential, just to make them suffer. It's framed as triumphant, but it's hollow. Pitou doesn't even fight back. GON has already lost, because what he's become is no longer a hero. And that's the tragedy. While Meruem grows more compassionate, GON grows more monstrous, because he allows grief to consume him. His innocence becomes his greatest weakness. He believes so strongly in justice that he chooses destruction over healing. In the end, Meruem dies with love in his heart. GON survives, but what's left of him? At first glance, GON and Meruem never meet. They never fight. Their paths never cross directly, and yet the entire arc is a slow, deliberate mirror between them. On one side, GON freaks, a boy once driven by hope, loyalty, and the dream of finding his father. On the other, Meruem, a being born as the apex predator, created to conquer, evolve, and establish dominance. But over time, something shifts. Their paths don't cross, they reflect. GON begins the arc with childlike optimism. He wants to save people. He believes in fairness, in friendship, in the idea that strength is earned and used to protect. But when Kite dies and GON realizes he was powerless to stop it, that optimism curdles. He grows obsessed, not with saving anyone, but with punishing the one responsible. Not with understanding, but with revenge. And what about Meruem? He starts as a tyrant. He sees humans as beneath him, tools, food, nuisances. He doesn't question his dominance. He doesn't even recognize individual worth. Until he meets Komugi. Until this fragile, blind girl defeats him again and again. Not in combat, but in patience, humility, and grace. And suddenly, the king begins to learn, to doubt, to change. Meruem's journey becomes one of evolution, not of power, but of thought, of identity. He asks questions no other Chimera Ant would ever ask. What is right? What is fair? What does it mean to coexist? While GON, in contrast, devolves, his grief becomes rage. His hope turns to despair. He makes a choice, the same kind of choice villains make. He sacrifices his body, his future, and even his sense of self to kill someone who had already surrendered. They are opposites in motion. Meruem begins as a monster and dies as something deeply human. GON begins as a beacon of humanity and is left hollow, broken, and guilt-ridden. And though they never met, they tell the same story in reverse. In the end, both pay the price of obsession, but only one of them finds peace. Komugi doesn't fight, she doesn't train, she doesn't transform, and yet she changes everything. In a story filled with nen abilities, brutal fights, and moral ambiguity, Komugi stands completely apart, soft-spoken, clumsy, blind. She's the national champion of Gunji, a fictional board game, and her only power is her unshakable kindness and honesty. But what makes her special isn't her skill, it's her effect on others, specifically on the king. Meruem, created as the perfect being, dominates everyone he encounters. Physically, intellectually, existentially, no one matches him. Until Komugi. She defeats him again and again, and with each loss, something in him shifts. At first it's pride, the refusal to accept being bested. But soon it turns into something else. Curiosity, then respect, and finally something Meruem has never felt. Care. Komugi never tries to teach Meruem anything, but through her presence, her humility, her quiet dignity, her stubborn kindness, she does. She doesn't flinch when threatened. She doesn't beg when he's angry. She doesn't pretend to be more than she is. And Meruem, for the first time, begins to question what he is. What does it mean to be strong? Is domination the same as purpose? Is compassion weakness or something greater? Komugi's existence forces Meruem to confront these questions through feeling. She's a mirror not of strength, but of humanity. Fragile, flawed, and deeply meaningful. In the end, when Meruem is dying, poisoned, broken, at his most human, he chooses to spend his final moments with Komugi by his side. She stays with him, willingly holding his hand as the light fades for them both. At its heart, the Chimera Ant arc is not about who wins or loses, it's about what we lose trying to win. Power is everywhere in this story. Raw strength, physical abilities, military tactics, political strategy. But the pursuit of power always comes at a cost, and that cost is humanity. GON, once the embodiment of youthful determination, sacrifices everything to defeat P2. He's not trying to save anyone, he's trying to make it hurt, to punish, to feel something that resembles justice. And the price is enormous. His body, his future, his innocence. Meanwhile, Meruem, the apex predator born to rule, finds himself unraveling the deeper he connects with Komugi. The closer he gets to understanding humanity, the further he drifts from the concept of domination. And when he's finally at peace with who he has become, it's already too late. His strength couldn't save him. This dual descent, one into darkness, the other into light, reveals the arc's core message. True power is not about strength, it's about restraint, about understanding, about choice. Hunter x Hunter refuses to glorify strength for its own sake. The strongest fighters in the arc, GON, Netero, Meruem, all suffer tragic consequences not despite their power, but because of how they use it. Meanwhile, characters like Killua, Komugi, and Palm, who grow emotionally, who choose empathy over violence, emerge with something deeper than victory: clarity. By the end, we're not left celebrating who won the battle. We're left reflecting on what it cost to fight in the first place. The Chimera Ant arc is messy. It's slow, it's brutal. It breaks every rule of conventional shonen storytelling. And that's exactly why it stands out. This isn't an arc about heroes saving the day or villains being defeated in a satisfying climax. It's about complexity, about people and creatures changing in ways we don't expect. It's philosophical, psychological, and deeply emotional. There are episodes where the narrator speaks more than the characters, fights where strategy matters more than spectacle, and decisions that feel horrifyingly real because they cost something. No one leaves this arc the same. Not the viewers, not the characters, not even the tone of the show itself. Hunter x Hunter uses this story to ask difficult questions. What does it mean to be human? Is power worth chasing if it breaks you? Can someone born to kill learn how to love? And can someone raised to care lose everything that made them kind? That's why the Chimera Ant arc is often ranked among the best in anime history. It dares to be uncomfortable. It dares to slow down and dig deep. It dares to show that growth isn't always a straight line, and that sometimes, to understand ourselves, we have to break first. This arc doesn't give us what we want. It gives us what we need. Hunter x Hunter didn't just give us a great arc. It gave us something to think about long after the credits rolled. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Chimera Ant arc, consider leaving a like. It helps more than you think. And if you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and until next time.